Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into something I think is on the mind of probably every funeral director out there, connecting with millennials and Gen Z. And lucky for us, we've got this fantastic blog post from Director's Corner that we're going to use as our roadmap.
It's more than just marketing, though, isn't it? It's like understanding how these younger generations view death and remembrance, and all in this digital world we're living in now.
Exactly. We're not just talking about changing the font on a website. This is a whole new way to communicate and build relationships.
Well, the Director's Corner blog post really hits the nail on the head when it says that millennials and Gen Z are true digital natives. I mean, they've grown up with smartphones, social media, instant access to everything.
And that brings us to authenticity, which the blog post talks about a lot. But, authenticity is a word that gets thrown around. So what does it really mean when we're talking about funeral service?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for millennials and Gen Z, it's about seeing the human side of your funeral home. They're looking for real people, real stories, a genuine connection. I mean, they can spot a fake corporate message a mile away.
So how do we show that authenticity? The blog post has some interesting ideas, like sharing behind-the-scenes content.
Right. Think about it. Most people, they only see the polished, formal side of a funeral home. What if you give them a glimpse behind the curtain? A photo of your team arranging flowers, a video of you prepping a room for a service, even just highlighting a staff member that's really passionate about grief support.
So it's like pulling back the curtain and letting people see the heart of your business.
Yeah.
That's great. It reminds me of this funeral home I follow on Instagram. They did this series where they interviewed each staff member about why they chose this job. It was so personal, really moving.
Perfect example. And those personal stories, that's gold. The blog post mentions sharing real stories, with permission, of course, about how your funeral home has helped families. That's the kind of thing that really resonates with millennials and Gen Z.
Absolutely. They want to see the impact, the emotional connection. It's not just about services. It's about the difference you make in people's lives.
Well, speaking of authenticity, it really shows in the language we use, too.
Oh, yeah. The blog post calls out the funeral industry for using all that formal jargon, which, let's be honest, younger generations just don't connect with. It's like we're speaking a different language.
Well, think about it. You wouldn't try to sell a car to a teenager using a bunch of terms they don't understand, right? So instead of pre-need arrangements, we can just say planning ahead. And casket selection becomes choosing a final resting place.
It sounds like a small change,
Yeah.
but it can make you so much more approachable and relatable.
And you know where it gets interesting? The blog post suggests using humor.
Humor.
Yeah.
In a funeral home. I know it sounds risky, but
Yeah. It can be done and done well. I'm not saying tell jokes during a service, but maybe use a lighter touch on social media or even in your pre-planning materials. It can help break the tension, make those conversations feel less intimidating.
I saw a funeral home that made a bunch of short videos where they debunked common funeral myths. They used a bit of humor, and it was brilliant.
Exactly. It's like you understand the awkwardness and the discomfort, and yeah, sometimes even the funny side of dealing with death. It makes you seem more human.
And let's be real, millennials and Gen Z love a good meme. They find humor in almost everything. It's how they cope and connect with each other.
Absolutely. But, and the blog post really emphasizes this, the key is sensitivity. You got to read the room. What works for one audience might not work for another.
It's about being thoughtful and intentional. And of course, Director's Corner is leading the charge in all of this. They're showing us how to navigate this whole new world of digital communication.
And what I really like is that they don't just talk about the theory, they give you actual examples, real advice that you can use.
Okay, so we've talked about authenticity and language. But how do we turn all this into actual conversations? Millennials and Gen Z, they want to engage, interact.
I want to be a part of the conversation, not just listening.
And the blog post is full of great ideas like Q&A sessions on social media, polls and quizzes, even behind-the-scenes tours, like you can stream those online.
Oh, I love the behind-the-scenes tours. People can virtually step inside your funeral home, see what happens. It breaks down those walls of mystery.
One idea that really stood out to me was this Demystify Myths campaign.
That's brilliant. You go right at those common misconceptions. And millennials and Gen Z are curious by nature. They love feeling like they're getting insider info.
It's like a myth-busting series, all about funeral facts. Is it true you have to embalm everyone? Do you really sell caskets door to door? You could have so much fun with it.
And you learn what people really think about funeral homes. It's a chance to get rid of those outdated stereotypes and show people what you actually do.
This brings me back to Director's Corner being at the forefront of all this. They're not just adapting. They're actively shaping the future.
They're offering a roadmap for the whole profession. It's like they're saying, look, this is where things are going, and here's how you can be ahead of the curve.
Well, they're making it a lot easier to navigate this new world of digital communication. And speaking of digital, let's dive into how technology can actually help us connect with millennials and Gen Z in a way that feels authentic and meaningful.
We've been talking a lot about millennials and Gen Z, but we can't forget about all the other generations out there, right?
That's right. We've got the baby boomers, Gen X, understanding each generation, how they see things. That's key to giving everyone personalized service.
Well, the Director's Corner blog post does a great job of outlining the differences between each generation, when it comes to funerals and what they expect.
Yeah, they have a really helpful breakdown in there. Let's start with the baby boomers. That generation, they really shaped the funeral industry as we know it.
For them, the funeral home is all about tradition, authority, a place of comfort when you're dealing with loss. They grew up with more formal services, often with religious customs.
And they trust the funeral director, their expertise.
Huh.
They're a generation that really values personal relationships, that face-to-face connection.
Then you have Gen X, a little more skeptical. They question those traditional norms.
They're the ones who started pushing back against those cookie-cutter funerals. They wanted more options, more personalization, to have a say in how their loved ones were remembered.
And they were also the bridge to the digital age, right? They saw the internet come up, that shift towards online communication.
So they're comfortable with technology, but they still want that personal touch. It's a balance.
Now you've got the millennials, the first true digital natives. They're tech-savvy, individualistic. They want authenticity.
A funeral for them isn't just a somber event. It's a celebration of life, a chance to tell stories, share memories. They want it to feel personal.
They're looking for experiences, not just services. And those experiences have to reflect their values.
Think about those personalized memorial websites. That's huge for millennials. Creating a tribute that lasts, something beyond a traditional obituary.
It's a space where you can share everything. Photos, videos, stories, even music that reflected the person's life.
And then you have Gen Z, even more digitally connected, super focused on personalization and authenticity.
This is the generation that grew up with social media as their main way of communicating. They're used to sharing everything online, and they expect businesses to be a part of that.
And incredibly socially conscious. They want to know the businesses they support are aligned with their values, whether that's the environment, social justice, ethical practices.
So when it comes to funeral service, they'll be drawn to the homes that are transparent, eco-friendly, involved in their community.
It's so interesting to see how each generation has shaped the industry. As funeral directors, we need to be able to adapt, meet their needs and expectations.
And that's where Director's Corner is brilliant. Their blog post isn't just an analysis, it's a how-to guide, how to connect with each of these groups in a genuine way.
One thing they really focus on is visual storytelling. Makes sense. Millennials and Gen Z are so visually oriented.
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, these are the platforms where you can share those short, engaging videos, the kind that really captures your funeral home, the families you help.
Some funeral homes are doing such amazing things with video now. Their content is informative, inspiring, even funny sometimes.
It's about showing, not telling, right? Don't just list your services. Give a video tour of your place. Showcase your staff. Share testimonials from families.
And video, it's so easy to share your website, social media, even email marketing.
It's a great way to attract new people to the profession, too. Millennials and Gen Z, they want careers that are meaningful. What's more meaningful than helping families through a tough time?
Absolutely. Show them the compassionate, innovative side of funeral service through video. We could inspire a whole new generation of funeral directors.
One of the biggest takeaways from the Director's Corner blog post is that we need to stop being afraid of technology.
Absolutely. It's not the enemy, it's a tool. We can connect with families in ways we never thought possible.
Take digital pre-planning tools, for example. They can make it so much easier to plan ahead, especially for younger generations. They're used to doing everything online.
And there's some amazing interactive grief support platforms now. They offer comfort and guidance.
Imagine a platform where you create a virtual memorial page, share memories, connect with others, access all kinds of resources, all in a safe space online.
That's incredible. It's like an extension of the care and support you provide in person.
And it can really help those who maybe aren't comfortable seeking traditional support, or those who live far away from loved ones.
We've talked about a lot of different strategies here, but it all comes down to empathy.
That's right. We have to understand them, their needs, what they're looking for in a funeral home.
It's about meeting them where they are, literally and figuratively. online, through social media, even in person. We need to create a space where they feel seen, heard, understood.
And we have to be willing to change as their needs change. The funeral industry isn't one size fits all anymore.
And who better to guide us through all of this than Director's Corner? They're really setting the standard for digital marketing in this profession.
They're showing that you can be innovative and compassionate, tech-savvy, but still human-centered.
And they're inspiring us to think differently about how we connect with families, how we serve our communities.
Okay, we've talked about the different generations, visual storytelling, the role of technology, but there's one more thing we need to discuss: social responsibility.
Millennials and Gen Z, they're not just looking for a service, they're looking for businesses that align with their values.
They want to know that the companies they support are doing good in the world. And funeral homes, we can really tap into that.
Absolutely. We can show our commitment to social and environmental causes.
Promote those eco-friendly funeral options, for example. Millennials and Gen Z are so environmentally conscious.
We can offer biodegradable caskets, urns, shrouds, encourage natural burial, even partner with local groups to plant trees in memory of loved ones.
And don't forget about community outreach. Millennials and Gen Z, they're looking for businesses that are actively involved.
Grief support groups, partnering with local charities, even workshops on death and dying.
It's about showing you're not just a business, you're a part of the community.
Yeah.
And you care.
And once again, Director's Corner is leading the way. They have a whole section on our blog about social responsibility to funeral homes.
They're showing it's possible to be successful, ethical, and compassionate.
It's inspiring to see funeral homes embracing these ideas, stepping up to meet the needs of younger generations.
You know, it's really amazing to see how much the funeral profession has changed just in the last few years. Embracing digital communication, it's not really an option anymore, is it?
I think you're right. It's a necessity. And the Director's Corner blog post, it really hits that point home. It's not just having a website, posting on social media. You have to create a real online experience for millennials and Gen Z.
They talk about turning posts into conversations. That's a great way to put it. It's not just a one-way broadcast anymore. You have to create space for dialogue.
Yeah, like those Q&A sessions we were talking about. Throw a question out on social media. What are your biggest concerns about planning ahead? What are some common misconceptions about funerals? I bet you get some interesting responses.
It's a chance to really learn what people are thinking, address their concerns, bust those myths that have been around forever, and it shows that you're listening, that you actually care what people have to say.
I saw this funeral home doing a live Q&A on Instagram with their funeral director. It was so interesting. People were asking all kinds of questions.
Yeah, it really humanizes your brand. You put a face to the name, shows the expertise and compassion behind it all.
The blog post also talks about polls and quizzes.
Oh, those are fun. Like a poll on funeral etiquette or a quiz about famous funerals in history. Lighthearted way to get people thinking about these topics, start a conversation.
And you know, those behind-the-scenes tours we talked about. What if you streamed a live tour of your facility on Facebook or YouTube?
People could walk through your chapel virtually, see the selection room, even meet the staff. It makes the whole process less mysterious, less intimidating.
It's like opening the doors, inviting people in, showing them how much care goes into everything you do.
You know, one of the most powerful things we can do to connect with millennials and Gen Z is to really showcase our commitment to social responsibility.
It's not just good business. It's about showing those values, the values that younger generations care about.
They want to know the businesses they support are making a difference, whether it's through the environment, ethical practices, or getting involved in the community.
We talk about eco-friendly funeral options. That's a big one for millennials and Gen Z. They're very environmentally conscious.
Exactly. Talk about those biodegradable caskets, natural burials. Show your commitment to reducing waste, conserving resources.
And don't be afraid to highlight your community involvement. Whether it's charities, grief support groups, community events, let people know you're invested in making a difference.
It's about being more than just a business. It's about being a caring and compassionate part of the community.
In Director's Corner, they walk the walk when it comes to social responsibility. They're involved in charities. They're constantly promoting ethical practices.
They set a great example.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the biggest takeaway is that connecting with millennials and Gen Z, it's not about some flashy marketing campaign. It's about authenticity, empathy, really wanting to serve families in a meaningful way.
It's understanding their values, what they expect, how they see death and remembrance.
And using technology as a tool to communicate better, provide support, create a better experience for everyone.
Directors Warner gave us a roadmap. Now it's up to us to take those ideas and make them work for our own businesses.
Millennials and Gen Z, they're not just the future of this profession. They're a part of our communities right now. And by listening to them, understanding them, adapting to their needs, we can make sure that the funeral profession thrives for years to come.
And, maybe more importantly, it's not just about reaching younger generations. It's about raising the bar for the whole profession. When we focus on being authentic, empathetic, and using technology the right way, we can make a more compassionate, meaningful experience for everyone, no matter how old they are.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's clear that engaging millennials and Gen Z, it's not just a trend. It's essential for the future of this industry.
It is.
It's about embracing change,
Challenging assumptions.
stepping outside of our comfort zones.
Yeah. And recognizing the value that these younger generations bring.
Right, and creating a space where they can thrive.
And at the end of the day, this profession is about compassion and empathy and serving others.
During some of the most challenging times in their lives.
It's about helping families navigate grief and loss and creating those meaningful farewells.
So to everyone listening, we encourage you to embrace these challenges.
And see the opportunities.
Think creatively, connect authentically,
And let's work together.
to build a future for this profession.
That is meaningful and sustainable.
And remember, this isn't just about the future of the funeral industry. It's about the future of how we as a society care for one another and honor the lives of those we've lost.
Well said.
That's it for this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful,
And thought-provoking.
and we look forward to exploring more fascinating topics with you.